Oh, okay, I can hear you. Okay. To make sure who I had as far as the members.
I can't reverse the picture.
We got Frank Alexander and we got Jim Perro. And those are the only ones right now, Kelly?
Those are the only ones right now. I want to just ask, there's somebody on called Dan. Dan, are you a member of the public? We just need you to have, oh, you're with the applicant. I apologize. I apologize. Okay.
So we have a quorum, so we can start the meeting. First thing I need is somebody to make a motion to accept our March 5th meeting minutes.
So move, Frank Alexander.
Do we have a second?
I'll second Jim Pirro.
Okay, so we all agree. So the meeting has been accepted.
Yep.
Now we're ready to go ahead with the applicant and his response. Is Ryan there?
Ryan is here. Let me unmute Ryan.
Yes, I'm here.
Unmute himself. Excellent. Go ahead, Ryan. I think it might be helpful, actually, before we jump into Ryan's comments, if we give the applicant just a chance to refresh everybody's memory with the project. I know we all know it, but it's been a while. So maybe just give them a chance to refresh everybody, and then Ryan can get right into his comments.
Okay. I've been living with this for a while, so I know.
I know you have.
No, I don't. Whichever one, Barry or whoever wants to go ahead and just give a overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Dominic from the law firm of Drake Loeb. I just want to briefly introduce who's here. And so we have Barry Meddenbach, we have Caleb Carr, and Heather. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting Heather's last name, so my apologies. Yes, of course. I have another Heather in my professional spheres that also has a G for the last name. So my apologies for that. In any event, we're here and we're ready to address board's concerns and provide an update for you. We made our last submission on March 2nd, and we were anticipating appearing before the board on March 16th. It was almost 3 months ago to the day. That meeting was canceled, and understandably so due to the pandemic. And I want to just say at the outset that we appreciate the board moving forward at this time. And we hope that you all stayed as safe and healthy as you can in these circumstances. At the March 16th meeting, we were going to provide an overview to the board regarding how stormwater will work on the site. Caleb Carr, our engineer with Meddenbach and Eggers, who designed the stormwater measures, is here tonight, and he can provide an overview of stormwater for the board. We've also received the board's consultants' comments, and we've also received the comment letters that were submitted by those organizations and members of the public who've expressed concerns regarding this project. We're committed to responding to all the comments received to date. Our next submission will provide a comprehensive response to all comments received. But we're here tonight to receive any additional comments that the board members and their consultants may wish to make. After tonight's meeting, we'll be back to work on our response, and we'll be submitting that hopefully in the very near future. And at this point, I'd like to turn this over to Barry, Caleb, and Heather from Meddenbach and Eggers, and Caleb will provide an overview regarding stormwater that the board had previously requested.
So what we've done, we brought all these things that the Congressional Black Caucus have been working on for us.
Sorry about that. I got it.
Thank you.
So
Barry and Caleb are currently muted.
They are now unmuted. There you go.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, this is Barry Meddenbach speaking. I'm just going to do a quick little overview of where we were at the last meeting and then turn it over to Caleb. We had this meeting, this goes all the way back to January. We talked about some landscaping facing the Pickerel Pond area. We had some details, but it wasn't clarified, and we actually produced a new drawing for that that's in the set. detailed it and added some additional trees so that we created a nice visual buffer to the pond. We at the last meeting also discussed some of the sound barriers and things, and now that we have a critique of our sound study, you know, we have our consultants are looking into that to respond. We also talked about the trail easement that the state park has over our lands, and we've added that to the map and the vicinity at which it would likely be located, because the easement itself is not definitely defined, but we do show it on the plan now. And I believe we've also added additional details to the proposed left turn lane along Route 28. The DOT has approved that in design at this point. Mentionally, we've submitted those plans to the DEC because it does require some disturbance to the edge of the wetlands along the highway. They have recently just responded back to us asking for more additional information, particularly from DOT, to verify that we can't reduce the width of the lanes down anymore. So we're working on that. And then, of course, we've also received all the correspondence from some of the public members who had consultants critiquing some of the plans. Some of it went to the state SHPO, where they are looking into it, as well as our archaeologists. We've had some comments on the hydrology of the site, and we have in the water usage and our pumping analysis and that. And our hydrogeologist is also looking into that, and we will be responding to all of those comments, hopefully for the next meeting. And so with that said, I'd like Caleb to maybe just illustrate the drainage plans. We have some of the drainage area maps that are also on the town's website, so they are available for the public. But I believe that Kelly, you can allow him to share his screen so he can, and I'll hand it over to Caleb.
Hi, my name is Caleb Carr. I'm with Midden and Eggers. I'm going to try to share two different drawings here in a second. Can everybody see that?
No.
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 Yes.
Yeah.
Now we got something.
All right, so this is a pre-development drainage map. This is post-development, or the pre-development, so there's nothing, or as the site is currently, existing condition. There's basically three watersheds within the property that we're looking at. To the east property in this lighter teal color, bluish green, is that property all drains toward the Sawkill Creek. There's no defined stream or tributary. Eventually it make it to a tributary of the Sawkill Creek and to the Sawkill. To the west of the site, that drainage area all drains to the New York State DEC wetland, KW3, but ultimately makes it partially to the Ontario Lake as well. Now the central portion here with the existing ponds, the existing ponds are considered a tributary of the Premier Brook. The Premier Brook eventually makes it into the Sopus Creek and onto the Hudson eventually. So those central ponds, again, the DEC has classified them as a tributary to the Premier Brook and are protected. The majority of our site affects the central location. Pickerel Pond is north of the site. The red line shown on the map is the watershed for Pickerel Pond. Pickerel Pond has approximately 14.5 acres of actual water. The current project site where we're planning to develop in the central location, its large areas are basically all exposed rocks or piles of rocks from the mining, with some trees growing over the unreclaimed mine that drains completely untreated towards the former settling ponds. So right now in a rain event, a lot of the old dust and stuff and sediment will actually still enter those ponds at the moment during heavy rains. The ponds, including Pickerel Pond, all drain to the south as part of the tributary of the Premier Brook. Pickerel Pond overflows in heavy rain events into the lower ponds and then on through the site. And it all goes toward New York State Route 28. And the next drawing is the post drainage. And so to the east over here, toward the Salkill Creek, we actually take some of that water out, and we actually make it go towards the existing Premier Brook. But the big difference is all the water that around the building 1 and 2 and the parking areas all drains to 2 water quality basins, water quality basin 1 and water quality basin number 2. And that'll treat all drainage from those 2 buildings prior to being able to discharge to the ponds on site. So the stormwater management for the project will include temporary erosion controls during construction and permanent stormwater controls, such as dry swales, pipe culverts, and water quality basins. These stormwater management practices will mitigate the impacts of the proposed development for the runoff quantity, and it will also help the quality. So the only disturbance really that we have for the stream is for the outlets that are coming out of water quality basin number 1 and number 2 in this area and in here. And then we're also putting a culvert over top of the existing road to allow water to go from pond B to pond C. So the dry swales are proposed to go around the buildings, and the dry swales will also have check dams. They'll collect sediment, and the dry swales will allow water to infiltrate back into the ground before they make it to the 2 large water quality basins. The stormwater will then pass through 4 bays before the water quality basins that will also collect sediment. So any of the water discharged from water quality basins should be rather free of sediment before exiting or for outlets into the ponds, existing ponds. The water quality basins both have a safety bench and an aquatic bench. So the water quality basins will be planted in grasses, several varieties of grasses. The stormwater practices within the dry swales and the water quality basins were to meet the design requirements in the New York State Stormwater Design Manual, and we have a full SWIP developed. That's basically the overview of the drainage areas, unless somebody has any questions specifically about those.
No, I think right now, Caleb, we'll just process what you just presented. We'll take another look at those plans regarding the drainage areas, and if Brian has any additional comments regarding stormwater, together another memo for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Dominic, did you guys want to present anything else before we jump to Ryan to get his comments?
No, I think Caleb's walking through the stormwater, it also illustrates the general layout of the site, which has been presented multiple times. And so at this point, we're here to receive the board's comments and anything that the board's consultants have to add.
John, I don't know if you want to if the board wants to give their comments, or if they want to hear from Ryan first and Tim first, so that none of the comments overlap. It's really up to you.
That's a good idea, John.
Okay.
I'd like to give him Ryan.
Agrees. Frank, do you agree with that?
Yes.
It's a good way to go. We'll get the information from Ryan and our consultants, so find out what they are picking up as in regards to what we might have decided to look at.
Okay, that sounds good. Ryan, can you unmute yourself and give your report?
Sure. So our comments are based off of the March 3rd, 2020 submission by the applicant. We prepared a letter on March 27th, 2020. And so I believe everyone has received this letter. If not, let me know and I can get you guys a copy of it. The first section of our comment letter is somewhat of a carryover from previous letters. It kind of illustrates and outlines the permits required for this application. You know, just to touch on a few, the DOT, you're going to be required to have a permit for your entrance. And then the right-of-way modifications you guys were talking about previously. Permit with a DEC for the disturbances and things like that. The SWIP, Department of Health, for your wastewater supply and your wastewater discharge, and then water supply as well. So those permits are still going to be needed prior to receiving any final approvals for the project. Further, if we go into the site plan, recently the truck scale has been added to the plan. And so our comment was regarding some more information should be provided for its purpose. Is this something that's only being used during the construction and then hauled away? Is that something that's going to be more permanent as a future project involvement, or is it sole purpose just for the construction? Let's see here. So the sound berms. So on sheet 6, you guys have a detail for your sound berms. It's a little unclear as to what the material is going to be. I know you've indicated crushed rock or stone from the site. We just feel that some more information should be provided about the size of the stones, just due to constructability and also maintenance. Kind of who's responsible to make sure that if something goes wrong out there, that it's going to be built back to the way it was. Just something along those lines, as there's a note or a detail into that connection there. So I think this again is kind of a carryover from a previous comment. The sound berms that are along the edge of your property, a lot of the swales are very close to them. And again, going back to that kind of constructability comment, if for some reason you guys just take a second look and make sure you guys are comfortable saying that the sound berms can be built as you guys show them, and you don't really see any issues with them being in place with your swales, dry swales, or any of those other methods and mechanics. Again, that really comes back to if you can provide a little bit more detail on how those sound berms are going to be constructed. I know in a previous correspondence, you guys had mentioned they're going to be built in, no lifts and compaction is not going to be really a thing. That may be something you need to look into a little bit more. Just again, erosion being 15 feet tall, there's some definite concerns with erosion and things like that throughout the construction of the project, going through multiple years of construction. Also, you've added a landscape plan on sheet 12. So you're calling out around 30 trees to be planted, Norway spruce and white pines. They're said to be about 8 feet at planting, which is good. We just would like some clarification on if you guys have a lifespan or how long there's a guarantee, and if they die within a certain period of time, will they be replaced? What fashion will they be replaced, and kind of who's responsible for some of those items, because they are being used as a visual barrier and sound barrier and to some extent like that. Going forward, you guys did provide a generic blasting plan for the site, and I think we've left this one in again. So as you further develop the project and get closer to actual construction, a final blasting plan will be needed to the town for review prior to receiving any of those permits to proceed. I guess this is more of a clarification comment now regarding the water. It seemed like previously we kind of had the understanding of how all the water would be used and things like that, but in the water report, the most recent one, it accounted for water being used out of that front storage building that's currently on site. And I know when we talked previously, it seemed like that wasn't really be included. Now it is. So we just want to kind of some clarification on the numbers on kind of how all that got pulled together and where the water is expected to be coming from for the use on the site. I know we talked, you need 2,000 gallons for your concrete manufacturing, and then based off the square footages of the buildings, we assume the rest of the volume would be for the workers per the Department of Health kind of mandates. So just a little bit of clarification on that, and then that'll kind of answer those kind of questions. I think it was just reading the water report was a little bit different than what I was reading on the EAF and kind of how it was explained. So it's just some clarification there, nothing too significant with that. And with that, that kind of summarizes our comments from that submission. Again, I think you guys have all seen these, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact our office or myself, whatever is easiest for you guys. And that's kind of it for tonight.
Okay, great. Also on the line, if does the board have any questions for Ryan?
No, the only question I got, Ryan, the date of that memo, was that the 27th of March?
Yes, that was March 27th, 2020.
I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the same one that you were reading off of and stuff. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we're all set as far as that. Now, the only question I got is with Caleb. Those two plats that you showed, the water drainage and stuff,
Yeah.
they going to be part of the new package that you're going to be sending so that Ryan will see that and then we'll be able to look at that at a physical time, some point in time?
Yes, we can submit both of those with the next submission.
Okay, okay.
Just so the board knows, they did provide those. They were kind of blow-ups, and I did ask that they put them on the website just in case callers that were calling in would know what was being referenced so that it is available for the public.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And you also have your noise consultant on the line. Tim, I'm gonna
That's what I was
unmute.
going to say. The next person up, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I jumped the gun a little bit.
No, hey, you're the one that's got all the buttons and you're the one that tells us what we're going on here. So don't be afraid to, direct us. I'm always used to being directed.
Well, I have unmuted Tim. Tim, if you'd like to give us your report. Tim is the noise consultant on the project for the town.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, so I also have one of my staff here, team staff members, Dana Ladico, who's she's going to be taking the technical lead on this. We had received the documents that were provided to us on the various noise studies that were then reviewed critically with a number of suggestions and comments made. And so from those, there were a number of just clarifications, questions, potential issues around analyses that weren't conducted as such, and that kind of stuff. So what I'd like to do is at this point have Dana Ladico be unmuted, and she can actually provide you the additional information and all that kind of stuff. And then we can both take any technical questions that you guys would have regarding this, regarding the comments and questions that we made.
Terrific. You are unmuted, Dana.
Great. Thank you all for your time. So I'm Dana Ladico with Illingworth and Rodkin, and we put together some comments in terms of peer reviewing the noise documentation that was made available to us. So that included the noise study dated February 2019, a 12-hour ambient sound study dated November 2019, and then the noise chapter of the environmental assessment on revised February 26th, 2020. And there were also a number of comment letters and such that we did review as well. And hopefully everybody has this document. So it was put together on March 10th, 2020. And there's a lot of detailed analysis in the comment letter, so I'm not going to go through that level of detail here. I just wanted to kind of summarize some of our comments. We did find, based on
not going through every detail, because that's, I said thank you for not going through all the details, because there's a lot on that in that pamphlet that you sent.
Yeah, so it basically falls into a couple of categories. So we did find a number of calculation errors in the noise studies based on the information that was provided within the studies. So I think those need to be corrected or else substantiated in some way. There is the noise reduction for both the berm and the foliage seems to have been overstated based on my calculations. It would definitely be much lower. And some of that could be helped if some noise contour mapping was included in the analysis, which I think would really help in this case, just due to the large area that is impacted by the proposed project. It's really hard to get a sense of the impacts for a large area if you're only giving impacts at a couple of single points. A couple of things were missed. There were no noise measurements conducted during the nighttime period, but the report did talk about nighttime operations. So obviously noise levels at night are typically, at least, ambient levels are lower. And so if you do have activities at night, that could potentially be more of an issue than during daytime. A couple of other analysis issues, which I think were skipped, which should be addressed, include, I guess, nighttime operations. Traffic noise impacts were not assessed. I can assume the number probably isn't that large if you're, comparing it to, say, a highway, but we're talking about a rural area here. So, small number of trucks passing very close to residents can make a difference. And maybe it does and maybe it doesn't, but without an analysis, of course, we don't know. There's no analysis of blasting vibration, and vibration from blasting can be a pretty big issue for very long distances. The other, what's that? Oh, it was mentioned later in the report that there would be backup beepers, and those can also be a topic of concern for people. They just are very annoying noise. What else was missed here? Those are kind of the main things. The mitigation didn't really give me a sense that it was actually going to mitigate the impacts. There was no quantitative analysis conducted for the mitigation. So, it might be reducing the noise levels, but if you're not doing quantitative analysis showing by how much, you really can't say whether or not they're mitigated. I think the impacts were also understated. I mean, an 11 dB increase is a huge amount. It's, I mean, 10 dB is a doubling of noise level. So it's on a logarithmic scale. So you can just imagine a doubling of the noise level. And I think that pretty much covers the key points that I have. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, or if, of course, I kind of spec'd out in more detail in my little memo, but it might be a little bit hard to follow because there's a lot of stuff in that memo.
Does any of the board have any questions for her or Tim?
I got one little question. You made a comment in regards to typos. Now, did you pick out the typos for the applicant to correct, or are you just going to give them the packet and say, this is the subjects that we are interested in and what you need to study? I just want to make sure that they're going to get the benefits of your comments so that they can go back and make sure it's all corrected, or at least take care of it.
My intent was to have, to give substantial comments. So I didn't go through and pick out like, oh, you use the versus or anything like that. But it does list all of the errors in terms of the calculations and anything that I found to be misleading. Some of them were just typos that it was clear what the intent was, but because of the typo, it was misleading. So it's something like that I might point out, but no, I didn't go through, textually.
Okay, those were the ones I was interested in, the ones that you said might unclarify a particular statement, make it ambiguous. That was the thing I was interested in, those kind.
Yeah, that's all listed. And actually I separated out by document so that it might be easier for the applicant to respond to it, because it's, for each document in each section, they can just go through it, hopefully.
Okay. And now, are they going to be responding directly to you to review what you said? I'm just curious.
No, that would be a submission to the board, another submission to the board, and then the board would review it and your consultant would review it and provide comments like they're doing right now. That would be.
Yeah, I just wanted to know.
The evolution
I just wanted to know exactly how we were handling this because, there's been a little bit of a wait time since the beginning and things that are going on. So
this will be good because you'll be able to see all of the evolution. Barry, I see you wanted to weigh in on that. Go ahead.
Just be able to have our consultant to talk to planning board's consultant directly if that's allowed.
Oh, yes, you can. The consultants can, call, ask questions, things like that. But I meant if you're making a submission, the submission of that report.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you can, feel free to, I don't know who would send my contact information across directly, but that's fine.
Yeah, we can coordinate that. That's not a problem. And that's typical where a consultant provides a report and another consultant has a question on it. So to clarify that question, they're able to reach out. But like I said, any formal submission, any additional report that goes to the board, that's, out there to be reviewed by the board, its consultants. Once it's releasable by FOIL. And for this applicant, almost everything has been, I think everything has been posted on the website. So that would just be the next stage.
Yeah, my main concern was if,
Response to your question, I'm sorry.
no, it was just that I wanted to make sure that there was interaction between our consultant and their group, so that this way here, if they wanted to say, oh, at this point, what actually point are you pointing to? That kind of stuff,
That's a good point.
It's much easier to not have middle people for sure.
Yes, much easier.
And I suspect a
Leave
lot
us
of
out of it until you got everything all straightened out, and then you present it to us. A lot happier for us.
So did anybody have any additional questions for Dana or Tim?
I don't. I know we had Keith had voiced some interest that he wanted to present, but seeing how he's not online, it's a little hard for him to do that at this point.
Sure. Well, hopefully, I mean, there's been a lot of comments by the board and by the board's consultants throughout the process. So hopefully some of his comments were captured in their reports, but if not, I mean, the applicant is obviously going to have to come back with updated plans, updated studies to respond to these comments. So he will have another opportunity to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what, particular things he was interested in. He just mentioned that, yeah, he was interested in, reviewing this and coming up with some questions that he wasn't too sure about.
Okay.
But I can't read his mind, and he hasn't contacted me because he was supposed to do that here. So I think right now where we stand is that we have gotten our noise consultant, gave an overview of their submittal. That is gone to the applicant. And the applicant has shown a few things that he has worked with, but he's still got a lot more to go. And Ryan, there's still things that you're in contact with, right, that they need to get to you?
Yeah, John, there's a couple of things there. There's some, but some of it's mostly some housekeeping things, but I think there's some minor comments that are still outstanding, yes.
Okay, and I know that you will be in contact with us if it's anything that we need to see right away, Okay, so I guess that is the end of our session, unless any of my other board members have anything they want to bring up.
Nothing for me at this time.
None for me either.
Yeah, just I want to first, before we close out, I want to say I think that this was good getting everybody back, up to speed on the project while everything has been going on. Clearly, the project right now is not ready for a public hearing. There at least needs to be another submission to address these comments that were received. I don't know if the applicant has anything further to say this evening before the board closes up.
This is Dominic. Once again, I want to say that we will make a comprehensive submission, and the way that we'll do it is we'll provide you with all of the comments that have been received and then our responses to them, as well as a red line to the documents that we submit for the expanded EAF, so that you can see clearly what it is that we have done to respond to the comments. We very much appreciate, the effort and to get together tonight and to continue on during the pandemic. And it's very helpful. And we thank you all for all the efforts that you guys are putting into this.
Well, I thank you for being patient, because this is going to be a little bit of a lot longer drawn out process with the pandemic and everything else. And we're all learning about this new process. I know I am not quite in the 21st century. I barely get into the 20th century.
Oh, you're doing great, John.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that.
I agree. This went very well in terms of making our presentation tonight and addressing the board's concerns.
Well, as nobody's got anything more, then I'm going to ask for somebody to make a motion to adjourn, and a second. We will let you people get back to your jobs.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, meeting is now adjourned. Kelly, was there anything else that we needed before I did make that statement?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time and your effort, and we're still here, and we know you're going to be coming back.
Everybody stay safe
Yes.
and healthy.
You as well.